Yeah, I know it's the Europa League, but it is another European night, so that means it's a big match ahead for Xavi and FC Barcelona, a team that are flying high and have not lost since October against Bayern Munich in, well, another European night. So with Manchester United this time, another big club, if you will, one on the ascent and one in hot form, which we will get into, because here are the 5 things to watch before Barcelona against Manchester United in the Europa League. 1 is stakes. Now be warned. Those of us who have a little bit of sense, who like to have nuance and balance in our lives, you will see a ton of hypocrisy online. Because those same fans that cry about the fact that Barcelona are in the Europa League and the Europa League is nothing, and they devalue that tournament, are the same ones that are going to put everything, that are going to say the sky is falling, depending on the result of this Barcelona and Manchester United first leg at the Spotify Camp Nou. To give them a little bit of credit though, this fixture does feel like the Europa League is too small of a stage for 2 clubs where they are right now. And historically speaking, Manchester United are 3rd place in their league and a fair 3rd place. I think they've been the 3rd best team in the EPL this season, behind just Arsenal and Man City. No funny business there. And Barca's been the best team in Spain, unequivocally. So you already know how I hope that people will approach this match. And that is enjoying the fanfare. That is treating it like a huge fixture that it is. The fame of the opponent, the weight of every single European match that Barca has played in for 6 years, and the excitement of 2-legged knockout football again. But also keep in mind that Barca will still be 8 or more points ahead in the league table, regardless of the result. And I do want to indulge in the excitement of this fixture for just a second here. Barcelona does have Manchester United's number recently, having won the last 4 fixtures between the two. The last time Manchester United lost 5 straight to any opponent, 2000 to 2002 against Liverpool. And the most famous Barcelona wins are maybe some of the wins that helped so many people here watching become fans of the club. In 2009 and 2011, winning the UEFA Champions League. And for those who've been here before, you know that I think that final in 2011, well, that was the peak of football. That was as good as it can be when it comes to watching one team dismantle, figure out, solve, as if every other team is a problem, just solve the opponent. I know United got a goal in that game, but it didn't seem to matter. Barcelona they felt destined for that title that year because of just how good they were playing. And while the ghosts of the past will be whirling around the field for this fixture, I think it's about time for some of the younger players to make their mark in Europe. So if you're Pedri, if you're Gavi, if you're Balde, the Europa League is a plenty big enough platform to make your mark before it's time for bigger things in the future. 2 is Marcus Rashford. For those who already watched yesterday's podcast, we really did dig deep on the tactics. You know that Casemiro, Ten Hag, they're going to be important to this game because of all those X and O's and some of the intangibles. But the game is all about scoring goals. And as far as Manchester United go, Marcus Rashford goes. He's got 21 goals and 8 assists across all competitions in just 34 appearances so far this season. And what exactly is Rashford trying to do? Where is he trying to get to? That left half space, that is the most important spot on this field for Barcelona, I think, in their preparations, is how do you deny Rashford from getting into that left half space? That's going to be how this game is decided as far as Barcelona's defense continuing to keep clean sheets. If you look at a heat map of his shots, this season he's got 2.7 shots per 90. Not the highest mark in his career, actually the 4th highest of his 8 seasons. But never before has he had such a dedicated location as the left half space where the majority of his goals are coming from. We don't know exactly how Xavi's going to handle Rashford, but I would expect, or I might think that Xavi is definitely mulling over having Araujo start at right back like he did against Real Madrid and Vinny Jr., and having Koundé switch as the center back on the right side. And it's not just unloading a cannon of a shot by getting into that left half space. Rashford has also added quite a bit of strength this season. I know he's 25, but it feels like he's fully completed his final form, if you will. He's gone full Super Saiyan in terms of physically what he can do. And that also means that he's been better on headers. He's a multifaceted forward now that can play all across that front 3 and can be really dangerous in a number of ways. And he's the player before any other that Barcelona has to prepare for. 3 is Red Devils. I guess now I have to talk about everybody else in another category because Rashford isn't all of Manchester United and Manchester United isn't all of Marcus Rashford. United have a ton of talented players, and they should for how much the team costs. However, they will be missing quite a few players for the first leg, way more than Barcelona is actually. Barca is missing 2 necessary important starters in Busquets and Dembélé. But I'd argue that United is actually missing 3, with Lisandro Martinez suspended, Christian Eriksen out for a while with injury, and Antony also reportedly injured. And let's actually bump that number up to 4, because Marcel Sabitzer may have started over Fred if not for his suspension. They're also missing Donny van de Beek for the season, and minor injuries to Scott McTominay and Anthony Martial. But they still have plenty of firepower. Bruno Fernandes has 7 goals and 7 assists. Fred, Casemiro, and Jadon Sancho all have added 4 goals, while Alejandro Garnacho has scored 3. Culés will recognize Rafael Varane and of course Casemiro, and Luke Shaw has put the injury stuff behind him and has been a quality player for multiple seasons now. Then there are the younger faces, 23-year-old right back Diogo Dalot, 23-year-old left back Tyrell Malacia, and 18-year-old left winger Garnacho are the younger players that should be highlighted, plus 20-year-old Anthony Elanga and 21-year-old Facundo Pellistri. It is interesting to see both of these important historical giants relying on a lot of youth, and youth that came from their academy as well. While those Manchester United youngsters I mentioned might not have the high ceilings that Pedri and Gavi and Balde do, they're still really good players in their own right that are important to the way that Manchester United succeed. 4 is tactics, and shout out here to the purist. He had it exactly right to try to break this up into 2 different parts. There's United on the counter press, which I think is going to be their main mode of transportation against Barcelona, and then there's United in possession. So talking first about that counter press, as I discussed on the podcast yesterday, it's essential for United to find Rashford in space. And it is an interesting juxtaposition between these two teams and how they build up. For United, it's about creating counters by winning the second ball through Weghorst up top. Swarm the right side of the field with numerical overloads, and then switch play immediately from the right to the left for Rashford out in space. Because Rashford is so lethal on the left wing on the counter right now, that will likely be United's first option to break through. I think, though, it is a feather in the cap for Barca that Ter Stegen is pretty elite at picking out the free man on the wings, while De Gea has struggled a bit more with that. Varane and Araujo and their ability to break the press is a bit of a wash, but I do trust Barca to get through a press more than I do the Red Devils. While United has had good success with a high press in the Premier League this season and throughout the rest of Europe, I think Barcelona are going to have different challenges that United have not faced with that aspect of their game yet. Another big question to be answered for United on that counter press is what can Jadon Sancho give you on the right? Is he going to need Dalot to come forward to overlap so that he's not necessarily in 1v1 situations? Because if Barcelona can defend him with just Balde in a 1v1 situation, that will certainly help Barcelona. And we also know numerically on the left, they're going to want to get Balde forward. And they also have Gavi as the inside forward to drop in. If Kessié, like he did against Villarreal, is playing on the left in that double pivot, then he's going to be supporting Balde. So it's going to be a lot to be asked of Sancho by Manchester United and Ten Hag if he decides to set up that way. It does look a bit like a 4-2-3-1 when they're defending to try to break out on the counter press. And then it's a bit of a 3-1-5-1 in build-up, which is, I think, pretty interesting. We could talk about how the counter will be pivotal to this game, but it's not the only way Manchester United want to play. Casemiro has been essential to all of this, basically bringing all of those smarts straight from Real Madrid. And like Barcelona, it's important for Manchester United to stretch the field horizontally as much as vertically, which is why I said that it's a 3-1-5-1 in build-up. Now, how Barcelona deals with that build-up and the lengths at which they go to press, that's going to be the important part of how United handle this fixture, especially with United on the road for the first leg. If Varane and Casemiro, without the help of Kroos and Modric, find ways to break through Barcelona's pressure, it might be a long night for the Catalans. But if United are stuck and that high line for Barcelona is so far forward that Barcelona are able to pin Manchester United in their own half, it's going to be a long night for the Red Devils. On the reverse of that, what will Barcelona do with United in possession? Well, I think they're going to play their game and trust in what they've built. And as far as Barcelona dealing with United's pressure, they are going to trust that back line of Balde, Christensen, Koundé, and Araujo in 1v1 situations. Christensen, or Araujo, or Koundé, somebody deal with Weghorst, and then everybody else kind of worry what's happening out on the wings. And we also know that there, as I've already mentioned, going to be a huge emphasis on what Rashford's doing out on the left. 5 is predictions. Going back to the podcast yesterday that I had with my friend Tom Verdi, he laid it out for you, the predicted 11 that Ten Hag is going to throw out there against Barcelona. And I think it's, not to say predictable, but with the limited options that he does have at his disposal, I think it's totally fair that Tom argued it's going to be De Gea in net, Shaw, Maguire, Varane, and Dalot across that back line, Casemiro and Fred as the double pivot, Rashford, Fernandes, Sancho from left to right, and then Weghorst up top. On the bench, you have Wan-Bissaka to come off, and then the youngsters in Garnacho, Elanga, and Pellistri. For Barcelona, I'm going to argue it's a 4-3-3 while defending, and then in possession, I'm going to argue it's that 3-2-5 that we have seen Xavi employ since he kind of changed everything up against Atletico Madrid. So Ter Stegen in net, Balde, Christensen, Koundé, Araujo, Kessié, De Jong, Pedri, well, I guess I can't give away who I think is going to be the double pivot, and then Gavi, Lewandowski, Rafinha, but as you know, I think we're going to see that box midfield 4 that we keep seeing. And as far as my predictions for the game, I would love to kind of go out here on a limb and say that it's finally Lewandowski time in Europe. I argued last video that maybe Pedri was the MVP so far this season and not Lewandowski, and maybe in the comments they warned me that I was suffering from recency bias. Pedri's got those 4 goals in the last 7 matches, but I was forgetting the 6 game-winning goals that Lewandowski has scored this season already to rescue Barca time and time again. I do think this is going to be close though, no matter what. And because it is at the Spotify Camp Nou, I'm going to give Barcelona the slight 1-0 edge for this one over Manchester United in the first leg. And the second leg, well, we're going to have to pretty much redo a full preview because you're going to have a lot of faces on both sides coming back. And that fixture, if the first one has fireworks, could have even more. But before that, of course, we are going to have a podcast, we're going to have a match review, all of the good stuff after the game against Manchester United on Thursday and Friday, so look out for that. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it, and follow us everywhere you can find us. Just go to barcelog.com. It's got everything you need over there. So as always, until next time, Forza Barca.